Hi, welcome to Winter with the Seasons Leadership Podcast, where we celebrate this time to go deep to transform your leadership journey through actionable advice and personal stories that you can apply to improve your leadership and life today. I'm Susan Ireland, and with my co-host and co-founder of Seasons Leadership, Debbie Collard, we thank you for joining us. At Seasons Leadership, we share a vision to make excellent leadership the worldwide standard. Learn more at seasonsleadership.com. Welcome to the Seasons Leadership Podcast, and today we have Nicole Greer. Welcome, Nicole.
Oh, hey, how are you, Susan? Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. Well, let's start out by tell us something about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So I have a company. It's called Build a Vibrant Culture. And so I help everybody that I work with all the way from like trying to recruit the ideal employee who's a good fit inside your organization, all the way to leadership development, coaching, all the things in between that help leaders get everything they need so that they can provide an environment where people get lit.
Love that. Get lit.
Yeah.
Everybody just their ears perked up just then, didn't they? What?
Yeah. Well, I want to know, how do I get lit?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. So again, we're going to build a vibrant culture. And if you were to look up the word vibrant in the dictionary or do the Google, it would tell you that it is pulsating with positive energy and emitting light. And so I have this little song that I learned. It says, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." I don't know if you two ladies know this song,
Absolutely.
but yeah. So I believe that to be true, is that like when you pop on planet Earth, you've got this energy inside of you and you can direct it one of two ways. One way is you can direct it negatively in the world and be upsetting to people and create darkness wherever you go. I have this little sign in my office that says, "Aren't you a little ray of pitch black?" And so, and so it's like, I know people who are a little ray of pitch black, but what you can do with that energy is you can be a positive influence and you can move in a way that gets work done. Makes it fun. I mean, I'm big into like having a good time. I think work, it might be a 4-letter word, but I think it's really fun. And so I can help people get lit. And what we do is we want to do 3 things. It's a little acronym. I love an acronym, helps us remember things. Is the first thing we need to do is lead with clarity. I think a lot of people just want to know, what are we doing? Where are we going? Why am I doing this? And so if they just have some clarity. So I think if leaders slow down and have a really awesome conversation with the people that work with them, it will help. And to set proper expectations, hold people accountable, give them a little bit of leash to do it kind of their way too, I think is nice. And then the second thing is the I in lit, and that is to integrate integrity. So I read a book by Fred Keel. I don't know if you've heard that guy's name before, but he wrote this little research book. And in that book, it said companies that have a character development program have 5 times return on assets. And so I thought, well, I better figure out how to put character development inside organizations. So I went out and I got certified in this little tool called Tilt. And it helps people put, Are you a Tilt person?
I definitely am. I'm certified.
That's so great. And so I was like, oh my gosh, if the whole world knew how to tilt, we could fix probably Israel and Hamas and Ukraine. We could just do so many great things. So character development is huge. And then the last thing is leaders don't manage, although they might manage occasionally, but like leadership means that we transform the ordinary, and that's the T in lit. So I do need to manage things and keep processes and policies and things going. But what leaders really do is they transform what's going on currently to a higher, better, more efficient, more prosperous thing. So that's what we need to do, is help people get lit and get kind of in that mindset.
I love that acronym. And we are more aligned than we even knew when we invited you on the podcast.
Oh, good.
So this is amazing. So both you and Susan are certified Tilt.
Oh, don't you love that thing?
Yes, absolutely. And we use it in seasons all the time. But also, we're aligned around the 4 seasons of nature as a metaphor for seasons of life and leadership. And the winter season, which is when this podcast is coming out for all the listeners, is called Transform. And so it's the T in your lit acronym there. So this is really well aligned. I have a question for you too about culture, maybe a comment and then a question.
Sure.
And the comment is this, a statement that I fully believe is the culture of an organization starts with the leadership of the organization. As goes that leader, so goes the culture. And so when you're working in organizations around culture, what would you say to somebody working in the organization if they said, well, I want to work in this organization, I really like this organization, but I don't think my leader is really aligned with the culture? What would you tell somebody or give advice to somebody about that?
That they're in the culture and they don't think their leader is living it out. Okay. Well, I want to back up one step because you said, the leader has to be in the culture, right? But I want to say, really, the basis for your culture needs to be the customer or the client or the stakeholder that is receiving your products and services. So a lot of times, and I'll tell you a quick story. I'm working with a young lady, coaching her, and she's like, my leader pulled me in a room and wanted to know my personal core values, and she's surveying all the other employees' personal core values and what they believe and what they think, and then we're going to put our culture together. And I said, oh, well, that's a big mistake. Because you might leave that company and she might leave that company. The culture has to fit the people that we serve first and foremost. So they're the number one stakeholder. So for example, if you went to a very fancy hotel like the Four Seasons or the Waldorf Astoria or something like that, I mean, the culture is we're going to take care of people and wait on them hand and foot. So like if you don't like that, you can't work here because it won't be good for us. So you start with the customer. So I just want to make that really clear because I think people are confused about that. The second thing is your question. So I think what you have to do in this case is you have to lead up in that case. And I think sometimes it's about having a conversation with your leader. And what you might do is step into the situation and say, I'd love to have a conversation with you about culture. What is the culture here? What is it that we value? What is the level of service that we're supposed to give our stakeholders, our clients, our customers with our products and services? How are we supposed to treat each other? I just want to be really clear, right? And so in that case, you're basically asking the leader to discuss what their philosophy is. And you could say, the reason I'm asking is because I have one thing in my mind, but like some of my interactions that I'm having, they don't match. And I want to meet expectations. And so will you help me understand what the culture is here? So I would ask, I think sometimes leaders are so busy delivering outcomes and results that culture is lost. And maybe they just been there a long time and they're kind of grumpy or something. And you have to kind of like wake them back up or whatever. But, I think there are a lot of leaders out there that aren't paying attention to the culture. That's for dang sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to explore this a little bit more because I haven't really thought about the culture starts with the customer. And I really get customer service and all of that. But my head keeps swirling around, kind of back to your LIT kind acronym, that the leader just in by placement and position really sets the tone of the culture. So because people are following the leader, and so that can be their shadow. So if they're grumpy and they're, whatever, I mean, then it's like everybody's like in their shadow, or it can be light, just like what you said about lit. And so the culture just kind of evolves. Like we're a grumpy culture here, or we're a a more positive culture. So I guess I haven't talked more about how you resolve that.
Yeah. So, well, first thing is if the CEO is grumpy and in their shadow, then and you realize that, this is my bottom line advice: is you need to get your resume together.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know that you can try to lead up, you can try to have those conversations, but if you found yourself in a dark, um, shadow culture, and that's where you're at, it's very hard, like you said at the beginning, to sway the culture if you're not the head honcho, if you're not the number one person that can really do it. Now, if we think about all the brilliant, beautiful cultures that are out there, there's a leader who is intentionally deciding this is how we're going to be on the way to where we're going. And so I want to talk about mission and vision for just a second, if I may. Can I do that?
Great.
Yeah, great.
Okay. All right. So a big part of a beautiful culture is that there is a distinct mission and a distinct vision. And again, different places I go, companies I work with, people are very confused about what a mission is and what a vision is. And so I want to define it for folks. So a vision is a point in time in the future where something manifests or occurs or results or an outcome, and we have it on the lifeline, I call it. So like on, December 31st, 2030, this is where we're going to be, and we're going to throw a party. And on December 31st, 2030, we're going to get a new vision. See, the vision does not remain the same, because a business must evolve and grow, stay in the black, and move forward, right? So it's a point in time. So I'm gonna give you a quick example. So I used to be in property management. It was such a good career for me. I had the best time. I was in it for like 20 years. And I worked for a gentleman named John Gray. And he cast a vision. He said, we're going to be the number one apartment management company in the United States of America on this date. And you have to say, well, according to who? And he's like, according to the National Apartment Association. And we're going to go through this process and we're going to win. And we won. Because again, back to lead with clarity. We had so much stinking fun winning. It wasn't even, and then we were like, what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
So that's a vision. All right. Now, a mission is how we be on the way to where we're going. So that's where the culture piece comes in. So in this case, John Gray, who's probably one of the better leaders I've ever had in my entire life, he was like, we're going to have excellence in product quality. We're going to have superior customer service. And then we had scorecards, and we had inspections, and he inspected what he expected. And buddy, we were late. We worked like a dog for him, because we wanted to get that atta girl, that we were living up to his expectations. And so there was this culture of like achievement and excellence. And so we all towed the line on achievement and excellence. So that's how we be in order to get where we want to go. And so the second time around, he's like, we're going to go for it again. We're like, okay. And then after that, we had to, set bigger goals and better goals. So those are the things I think that help understand a culture.
Yeah, or help create the culture, said differently,
Yeah.
right? Because you're constantly creating it by how you show up, how you be while you're headed towards that vision, right? So
That's
you're
right.
creating it on an ongoing basis, and that evolves as well. But it is about the leader. And I was interested in what you said about sometimes people have to make a decision, get the resume together.
Yeah.
I don't fit here. I don't belong in this culture. This is not for me. And that's okay.
That's right.
It's not always going to be a good fit, right?
That's right. And, I talk a lot about, I have this little program called the Vibrant Coaching Toolbox, and I talk a lot about the employee life cycle. How do you take people through the employee life cycle in a fantastic way? And one of the things I say to everybody is like, inside organizations, there's two categories, and I hope this is not offensive to people, because I'm going to talk about birds. I tried to find the most non-offensive way to describe this possible, but it's like, you have eagles and you have turkeys. I mean, and I bet you two ladies are eagles. In your whole career, did you just do more and do better and get promoted and move up? Is that true for you too?
Yes.
See, that's
Mhm.
what eagles do, right?
Yeah.
And then there are turkeys who are like in the break room, gobble, 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 gossip, 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 talk, talk, talk. Are you supposed to be working? Yeah, I'm just getting a coffee, whatever. And so you've got two categories of people. And I think one of the biggest things to do inside of an organization is to do this, is to coach people in or coach them out. Because again, a turkey is going to bring, like that darkness to the situation. They're going to bring everybody down the feeling scale. And then, when you have lots of eagles, you're going to have a lot of great light inside of your organization. And here's the thing about keeping up the performance of people and doing employee performance development. Oh my gosh, so important. Is that, eagles resent the turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh my gosh, did you see how, I don't know, whoever, George,
Mm-hmm.
he's in the break room 15 times a day, he's eating donuts. And then, what leaders do is they're like, oh my goodness, I need to get this done. And I give it to George. He's not doing it. I know what I'll do. I'll go down and ask Debbie to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, Debbie says yes. And she does it with like Star Spangled Banner, extraordinary, great stuff. And, after a while, Debbie's like, my boss needs to hold George accountable.
Right.
Right. And that becomes the problem. So sometimes, here's my point, sometimes the turkeys are the leaders.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
So sad. So you either have to hang in there, get yourself promoted, or get your resume together. I don't know that there's a better pathway than those two ways.
Well, we have our mission, our how we're going to be as we're
Oh,
out there in the
awesome.
world, is to make leadership excellence the worldwide standard. So,
Oh,
in your vernacular, I guess that's getting rid of the turkeys.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Getting rid of the turkeys who call themselves leaders.
Yeah. Or helping the eagles who are acting like turkeys.
Oh, that's true. Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because see, here's the thing, what I said earlier about coach them in or coach them out. Now, my heart of hearts is to coach people in. Like, wake
Mhm.
up, smell the coffee. I'm trying to remove your little blind spot right there. I want you to be awesome. And here's the thing, in my career, when I was awesome, I was rewarded.
Yeah.
I got, I never got a huge like bump in pay unless I took on bunch more responsibility. But my attitude was like, bring it on. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. And the whole time I was doing it, I thought, I'm putting so many skills in my toolbox.
Mhm.
And nobody can ever take those away from me. A lot of times when I talk to people and they're like, well, they just keep asking me to do more. And I'm like, excellent.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, because they can't take your experience away from you. That is one of the most valuable things a person in their career can do is gather experiences, gather skill sets. It's money. It's literally money.
Yeah.
Right.
I've told some people that I coach, it's like you're getting a PhD, right?
Yeah.
It may be a super challenging environment, and it may be in the long run not the right one for them. But in the meantime, take what you can from it, learn what you can, because it's like a experience that you wouldn't get any other place.
And they're paying you to get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, right, right. And you
yeah,
get benefits probably. I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of things. And
yeah,
they might sometimes have pizza. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, well, that mindset can kind of help you get through some really challenging times because it puts a little bit of distance between you and the situation, so it's maybe not as emotional.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I bet you all have had not the greatest leader in your time, and I have one in particular that I think of, and her name was Lisa. And whenever I tried to find her because I needed something, I could never find her. Well, if she was in the building, all I had to do was this. I just had to take a little sniff. I'm like, okay, wait, I think it's this way. And I'd go out some door and there she'd be out there smoking her Marlboro lights. And I'm like, she
Oh,
she
I
was
was
a
wondering what the sniff was going to be.
Yeah, I was
yeah,
like,
no, it's like, I smell smoke. She's close. She's
Yeah.
somewhere, and she was just always outside smoking a cigarette. You need me? Yeah, I do need you, but I wish you would come in the building,
Yeah.
and help us, So, I mean,
Yeah.
you learn, and the thing is, you learn how not to be.
Right. Right.
100%.
And sometimes that is the biggest learning. And it's, you can always learn something from every situation and every person.
Mhm.
It's sometimes hard to figure out what that is, especially if it was traumatic for you. But you can learn from it. And often what we learn, as you just said, Nicole, is how not to be. Oh, I don't
100%.
want to be that kind of leader.
Mm-mm.
There's still an example for you. They're still setting an example, but it's an example of what you don't want to be versus what you want to be. And hopefully you get a number of those that are what you want to be so that you can follow along and build on what came before.
Yeah, I just couldn't agree more. That's absolutely true.
So, Nicole, can you give some of our listeners who are leaders some advice that they can take away and go implement right today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a couple pieces I think are great. So, first thing I want to give every leader that's listening is this is the best powerful question. Us coaches, we're taught to ask powerful questions. And this is the best powerful question I have ever had in my toolbox. And I want to coach every leader listening. Here's the question. Are you ready? What is it like to experience you? That answer that question, and hopefully you might have a little blind spot fall off or something, and you're like, oh, I am a turkey or I'm an eagle, right? So I don't know, but I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and here's the thing, we only follow the leaders that we know at some level, like we have a relationship that we like and that we trust. And the difference between me giving myself over to John Gray and doing what he wants me to do was like, know, and trust. And then I gave him all my discretionary effort. That's what I gave him. And people say I give 110%. I'm like, you can't even give 100. You don't have an extra 10 to give. You only have 100%. And you're probably running somewhere between 70 and 80, depending on your mood, your hunger level, whatever, and so I will give 97% if I know, like, and trust and experience my leader in an awesome way. I'll work my butt off. So I think that's important. So that's the first thing, is sit and answer that question. What is it like to experience you? The second thing I would say is you got to hold your people accountable. I think some leaders are just scared, or they've never been taught. I mean, I'm sure you ladies, when you were coming up, they're like, you need to hold your people accountable. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. And then you're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And I'm from the South. I'm from North Carolina, and like, we just clean up after people. Like, we just, hospitality's our thing. And if you're Southern and you're a female, you just are like, oh, they didn't do it, I'll just do it myself. So that's the right thing to do. And then you say this thing, bless your heart, which doesn't really mean bless your heart, by the way. But anyway, so the thing is that you have to hold people accountable. So I had a master coach. His name was Dave Cowan. And I was complaining to him in a coaching session one day. And he's like, I'm going to stop you. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, you need to hold your people accountable instead of whining and carrying on like you're doing right now. I'm like, oh, all right. And he said, here's the formula. And so he put it right in my hands, and I'm going to pass it along. Okay. So this is my love for all of you listeners. So here's accountability. First thing is, you ask people, would you do this for me? Okay. And so Debbie and Sue's like, yeah, we'll do it. Okay. Now, a lot of people think, there you go, we've got it all in place. But what leaders need to do is they need to say, okay, great. So let's talk through what it is you're going to do. So the first question in the accountability formula is, what are you going to do? Okay. Now, people will brush you off. Well, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. No. Let's talk through what you're going to do, because I want to make sure that I set expectations. And that nobody's disappointed when this thing is done. Now, I'm going to take a little bunny trail and tell you something from Don Carroll. I have all these really great people in my life. I'm so lucky. That's why leaders are so important. Yeah, that's why leaders are so important, everybody. Okay, so Don Carroll said to me one time, Nicole, uncommunicated expectations are a premeditated opportunity to be disappointed. And I said, say that again. and so he told me again, and now I've got it memorized. But you have to get expectations in place, because the way that I would do some project is different from what Susan would do and different from what Debbie would do. And if we don't talk it through, and plus 3 heads are better than 1, everybody. And so, Susan's like, we could do this, but Debbie's like, yeah, we could, but we could do this. And then me and Susan are both like, oh, let's do what Debbie's talking about, because that's genius. So we want to do that. The second question is, when are you going to do it? And so you have to actually get a time and a date. And in our electronic calendar world, I suggest you go, okay, pull out your phone. Let's put it in our calendar that you're going to get it to me Friday at 2:00. And so now it'll send them a reminder and all the things. Well, the third question is, how will I know it's done? And people, again, will brush you off. They'll be like, well, don't worry about it. I got it, And it's like, no. I need to have it. I need to know. I worry a lot. You got to send it to me. And so people say, I'm going to email it to you. You say, okay, great. Now it's 2:30 on Friday and you don't have your stuff from your people. What do you do? Here, I'm 58 years old, so I'm kind of old fashioned in this way, but here's my thought. Don't send an email. Don't send a Slack. Don't send a Teams meeting message or whatever that thing is. I'm a Mac person, everybody. What I suggest is you pick up the phone, or if you are in the same building, is you stroll down to their office and you present yourself. You say, hey, it's 2:30 on Friday and I'm looking for my report or whatever. What I have found is you only have to do that one time. And people are like, oh, Nicole Greer is serious about getting stuff done. Crud, I messed up. And then they'll profusely apologize and Jimmy cook up stuff and get it to you in a day or whatever. And here's the thing, it is uncomfortable. And they might even think, dang, she's serious. But when they get in the car and they're driving down the road, they're like, that's good. I work for a leader who gets stuff done, not a slacker, And so that's my accountability formula. What do y'all think about that?
I love it. I love the accountability formula because it gives something tangible for leaders so they can go, okay, I can follow these 4 steps.
Right.
And they can write them down in whatever way works for them. And I'm a Mac person too. And then follow them along as they go and refer back to them. So I have a follow-on question to that though.
Okay.
So have this client, and this client says, I have trouble holding people accountable. Okay, what's going on with that? Why do you have trouble holding people accountable? Well, it seems hypocritical for me to hold them accountable when I'm not accountable to the things I say I will do.
Oh, Lord.
What would you do with that client, Nicole?
I would agree with him, first of all. I see why you struggle. And then I would say, this is the question I would ask. I would say, what do you call a guy or gal who expects something, a behavior out of their employees, but doesn't do it themselves? What do you call that person? And so in my mind, the word I'm thinking of is hypocrite.
Yeah.
All right. So my dad used that word a lot, but that, I would make him confess that he is this ugly thing called a hypocrite, and it is ugly. So I think I would make him stare hard into the mirror. Now, the other thing I might do is pull out, okay, so everybody, there's this thing called the tilt, and you need to call all 3 of us ladies to help you. But there's this sheet called the tilt factors sheet that the tilt lady Pam Boney put together, and it is pure genius. I use that sheet. It's like, mine is laminated and needs enough fresh lamination. So on there, it talks about 48 commendable character traits. All right. Now, the character traits can be underdone and they can be overdone. Right. So the first one that's coming in my mind with regard to your example is like, there's the word disciplined.
Mhm.
right? Which is under wisdom. Like you're a wise soul if you are disciplined, right? Now, if it is underdone, if the character trait of discipline is underdone, it mean you don't have to be a brain rocket scientist to figure this out. The word is undisciplined,
Mhm.
right? And so that's where you could use that sheet. And in my coaching program, Genius coaching program I went through, they said, when you're having a tough conversation with somebody, put something in the middle, right? So that tilt factor sheet, you just stick it under their nose or put it up on the Zoom or however it all looks and say, what trait is on here that resonates with not holding people accountable? I don't know if they would pick disciplined or not, but that's a good one. Now, if it's overdone, it's strict. Okay, so that's the little layout on the tilt factor sheet. So I don't know what's up with this leader, but maybe he thinks it's too strict. So he pendulum swings all the way to I don't know. But see, I would coach all in, up and around and down and around right there about disciplined. Tell me about a time when you were disciplined. Tell me what an effect on your company would be if all of your employees were very disciplined. You got to just get the guy thinking about it so that he can snap out of it. Now, I have another thought on why he's doing this, but I want to honor the fact that I've talked a lot for a minute there. So I'm going to stop.
It's okay.
I get very passionate about this stuff.
No,
Yeah.
that's good. That's what I was trying to draw out. So people can see, okay, well, once I do this, then what's it look like in real life application? And so you definitely provided that. That was great. So go on with your next thought.
Okay, so there's this other work that's out there, and here's what I'm going to tell everybody. Leaders read. Okay, this is one of the habits of great leaders is they read stuff or they listen to the book on tape or they do the YouTube TED Talkies and all that stuff. You got to teach yourself along the way. That's the problem with a lot of our turkey leaders is they're not disciplined to learn. Anyway, so there's this guy. He popped off the planet just recently. He was over 100 years old. People said he was one of the wisest humans they've ever met. When you were in his presence, you could just feel how dang amazing this guy was. And his name was Thomas Keating. And he's Dr. Father Thomas Keating. And he gave lectures at Harvard. He ran a whole thing called contemplative outreach, yada, yada. Well, he wrote a little book called The Human Condition. And what he says in this book is that every human on planet Earth is addicted. And that's the word he uses. That's the strong word, addicted. Yeah. Addicted to security, approval, and control. And he says this stems out of our childhood. So when we're little baby girls growing up, I'm scared, mommy hold me, daddy hold me. Or everybody in your life when you're 5 years old is telling you what to do every 5 seconds. And so at some point they say, put your shoes on and you go, no. So you're just trying to control something in your life, right? And then the third one, approval. Like my joke about that is that like, have you ever taken a kid to a swimming pool? You don't get to read that magazine you brought, because every 5 minutes you're like, watch me, watch me, right. Watch me, watch me, give me a score. How was my pencil and my cannonball? It's relentless. So we're all addicted to those things. So this leader of yours that doesn't want to hold people accountable, I think it's his addiction to approval. Well, I don't want to look strict. Or it's his addiction to security. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. I want to be safe. I don't think it's control, because control, he would be like, get the stuff done or else.
Tilting the other direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when I tell that addiction thing to people from Thomas Keating's little book, Human Condition, they're like, dang, that's good.
Yeah.
And they can relate. They're like, my favorite flavor of addiction is this. And they'll pick one of them. And it's true. Like you like one of them more than the others, but you like all three.
This conversation about how to hold people accountable is a favorite that I have over and over again with people.
Sure.
Yeah, there's lots of different, twists and turns to it. But what I have found is your number one, be clear and set expectations. That is usually the problem.
100%.
So if you just start with that, then the other, it seems like it's easier.
Oh, I
You know?
agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But so setting expectations is, it could be a job description. It could be what the outcome needs to be for a project. But I love the way that you described it. Like, no, let's talk about this and
Yeah.
make sure that it's clear. And I even say, write it down.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Mhm.
Especially if it's like intense and going to last more than an hour. Like
Right.
if you're asking, could you make 12 copies?
Yeah. Yeah.
How you going to do that? I'm going to use the copier and I'll be right back. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that thing. The stuff we're talking about here is like put together an Excel spreadsheet with our top 20 customers
Right.
and the top products that they have bought in the last month and all that.
Right.
You want to have a conversation about what that Excel spreadsheet is going to look like.
Right.
Because you need that so that you can put the deck together so you can talk to the whoever's.
Right.
So and then you get it and you're like, this is terrible.
Right.
Well, just look right in the mirror. Congratulations, that
Well,
was you.
sometimes it's not even the extent you said, right? Sometimes it's the leader going, I need you to bring me something that shows me how our customers feel about us.
Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that.
Right? What is that? What does
Yeah.
it look like?
Yeah.
I've never done one of those things in my life, so I don't know but they're not going to say that to the leader necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's incumbent upon the leader then to say, okay, like you said, let's talk about this. Are you clear on what you're doing? Why don't you repeat back to me what you're going to do? Tell me how you're going to do it. And having the conversation is worth so much. It'll keep you from wasting so much time later in the process.
Yeah. We used to have this saying, I have been in this situation where the leader was not clear. It's bring me a rock. So bring me a rock, and then you bring a rock, and then you think that's not the right rock. Bring me another rock. Okay, that's not the right rock. Bring me another rock, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy. So it really is, leader has a responsibility to be clear because the outcome is right back on the leader.
And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm a leader, but I got a leader and they're never clear. Here's my advice right there. So I mentioned this thing called powerful questions.
Yes.
So go Google up on the Amazon how to ask powerful questions. 4 bazillion coaching books will come up, and pick one that has a nice star rating and then read this thing, because sometimes leaders are their personality. And so we'll keep using tilt language. They're what we call an impact or a connection. And so they, we could do this thing. And what they need is these other personalities, a structure personality or a clarity personality, to ask them powerful questions so they can either see how this thing is going to go down. And if you ask your leader powerful questions, I think that is especially if you have this, a leader like me in impact, they will appreciate it. And you will become like their wingman. Like, get in here and ask me questions about this idea I got, and it helps get the clarity. So like, how do you get the clarity? Lots of question asking is key.
Oh, I love that you bring the tilt into this. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that stinking thing so much.
Okay, you two are fangirling over here on tilt today. That's a wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah.
It is true.
Well, we could probably talk about this for hours and hours. I get the sense that we could have lots to talk about, but we need to wrap it up for today. So, Nicole, if you could only give one piece of advice to our listeners, other than what you've already talked about today, what would it be?
Give 8 positive pieces of feedback when you catch people being vibrant this week.
Nice.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Very good leadership challenge for people. And 2024 is our year of leadership challenges. So Susan and I have taken them on about sharing more of our personal stories. And so you just helped us put another one out there, another leadership challenge. So we love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and joining us today and all this great advice. And I took lots of notes myself, and I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of having you on the show today. Thanks so much, Nicole.
Oh, and thank you.
Nicole, how do people get a hold of you?
Easy. www.vibrantculture.com. It's all right there.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. We hope that you were inspired by this conversation.
And we invite you to join our community on Patreon. See the link below. There you will find more resources to help you on your leadership journey.
Make sure to join us next time for more conversation about leadership excellence.